is the solution of the 3 small exercises I gave you in the previous video. So let's start with the first one. We have to ask for the name and the age of a user and print the info on the screen. So I'm going to create a variable user name is equal to input, and then let's print a message. What is your name? Okay, put a space like this. Press enter. So what is your name? Let's say Bob. Okay, so now Bob is inside the username variable. I'm going to say user age is equal to input. How old are you? With another space. And let's say 36. And now, well, we have username and we have user age. So what we can do, we can print, for example, hello, username, you are user age. So let's do that. Hello. Okay, let's put a space and let's do plus. Okay, so we can concatenate the different strings. User name plus, and then, for example, a comma. You are space and another plus. User age. And if you remember, the input here will give you a string. So as for now, the user age is stored as a string, which is nice here because that's what we need to do. We need to print a string. So we don't need to cast this actually. So let's press enter and you can see, hello Bob, you are 36. Okay, that's it for the first exercise. Now the second exercise, you need to ask the user for 2 integer numbers, add them, and then print the result on the screen. So because we will need to add the 2 numbers, I'm going to need to cast what we get here, so the string, to an integer. So let's say a, we're simply going to use a and b. Okay, for this, a is equal to input, so let's say first number, and I'm going to put int like this. Okay, int input. First number, let's say 5. And then b is equal to int input second number. Okay, same thing. Let's give 3. Okay, so now we have a and we have b, which are both integer numbers. I can create another variable, which is sum is equal to a plus b. Okay, now the sum is 8, and what I simply need to do now is print the result. So to print the result in one line, I'm going to do str a, so I'm going to cast a to a string, okay, so we can concatenate different strings. And then I'm going to add plus between 2 double quotes, okay, plus str b, like this, another plus, and then equal, and then plus str sub. And actually I'm going to add some spaces here, make it nicer, and we have 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. Okay, and let's just see what happens if I don't cast the integer to a string. You can see type error can only concatenate str, not integers. Okay, so you can only concatenate strings with strings, okay? Here, this is an integer, so I need to cast it again to string, okay? So to make the operation, you need to cast to integer, and then to print, you need to cast to string. Okay, and for the third exercise, so we need to create a list of 4 float numbers and then compute the average and print this average. So I'm going to create the list first, so number list is equal to, and let's put brackets and let's give some numbers, okay? Let's say 4.4, 5.5, 6.6, 7.7, okay? Like this. So number list, we have 4 values. I'm going to create a new variable named average. So to compute the average, we have to sum all the elements of the list and divide that by the number of elements, okay? So to make the sum of all elements, what I could do number list 0 plus number list 1 plus number list 2, etc., etc. but that's really not convenient. So as I showed you before, you can use the sum function. So sum number list will just sum all the elements in the list. And then you need to divide by the number of elements in the list. And to know that, you can use the len function, which is actually going to compute the length of the number list. So length number list. I press enter, and now you have average 6.05. So that is the average of the list. Okay, so you can see with Python, you can go quite fast, and just with a few lines of code, you can compute the average of a list. Alright, and that's the end of this first section for the Python Basics Level 1. Great, you can now write your own small Python instructions in the Python shell and use variables to store and reduce data. Now is the time to go to the next step or the next level. In the following lessons, you are going to learn how to create more complete Python programs and reusable code. Writing instructions one by one in the Python shell is nice to get started and make some tests, but you will be quickly limited. What you need is to write Python programs in a text editor so you can reuse and improve that program later on to build real applications. So in this section, first you will install a new software which will allow you to write, save and run Python programs. I will explain everything step by step. Then you are going to discover functions, which is one of the most important concepts you need to be able to go further. At the end of the section, you will be able to create your own Python programs with reusable blocks of code and also run those programs. And again, first watch all the lessons of the section without stopping, and then come back to each lesson, take your time to understand, and do the exercise. Alright, let's get started. In this lesson, you will install a Python IDE on your computer. But what is an IDE? IDE means Integrated Development Environment. Very basically put, this is a text editor with many more functionalities which will make your life easier when you develop programs. So in this video, we are going to install the Pycharm Ide, which is an IDE specifically made for Python. After the installation, I will show you some of the most important features and functionalities you can get from this software. And note that I have chosen Pycharm for this course, which is nice to get started and is available for both Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. This IDE is actually really used by Python developers for developing real applications in real jobs. But this is not necessarily the IDE you will need or want to use in the future. Okay? Feel free to use any text editor or IDE of your choice, whatever which suits you best. And here, if you have never used an IDE before, then I recommend you to install Pycharm now, at least for the duration of the course. So let's get to it. Let's install Pycharm. So you can go on Google and just type Pycharm here, and you will get to the first page, okay, on jetbrains.com/Pycharm. Okay, so that will be something similar. And then you have a button here, download, okay, which will take you to the download page. So I'm going to install the Windows version here, okay, for this course and for my setup. And you have the instructions here for Mac OS and Linux. And I'm going to make a very quick parenthesis here for Mac OS and Linux before I go back to Windows. So for Mac OS, first you're going to choose the community, okay, don't choose professional, which is a paid version. The community is a free version. So choose the version that corresponds to your Mac hardware, so Intel or Apple Silicon, and just download that, and you can see these installation instructions. So you download it, and then you mount it as another disk in your system, and you just copy the Pycharm to your application folder. From that folder, you are going to be able to just start Pycharm. Okay. And for Linux, you also have installation instructions here, okay, that you can check So check the last instructions, and you also have the community. If you want to download directly, you can just download here the community. And if you are on Ubuntu, you can just use snap to install Pycharm with just one line of code. And actually, let's go to Ubuntu for a second. So to install Pycharm on Ubuntu, first open a terminal and then simply type sudo snap install Pycharm dash community and then dash dash classic. So sudo snap install Pycharm dash community dash dash classic. Provide your password and then you wait a little bit. It's going to download the different snaps and install it for you. Okay, and once you see that, Pycharm is now installed. You can close the terminal, and now if you want to launch Pycharm, you can just open the terminal and start Pycharm-community and press enter, or directly with the application search for Pycharm community, press enter, and then so you can confirm that, continue, and send or don't send data. And then you are going to get into Pycharm. All right, and now let's go back to Windows. So we are going to install the community edition. So you click on download. It's free, it's open source. You're going to save the file here, okay? Whatever is after this page, you don't need to do that. You just save the Pycharm executable for the installation. Okay, and once this is done, so you can just click on the executable to start it. Okay, if you have a prompt, you click on yes, and then, so next, you can choose where you want to install it. I'm going to keep the program files by default, which is nice. Okay, next. If you want a desktop shortcut, you can just click here, then you can click on next. Okay. Install and just wait for the installation to be done. Okay, and then you can click on finish and Pycharm is installed on your computer. So now what you can do, you can directly, if you have a shortcut on your desktop, you can directly click on it, or you can just search for Pycharm here by pressing the Windows key and then simply typing Pycharm, and you can click here on Pycharm. Okay, so just click on OK if you have this. Maybe you won't have this for the first time you install Pycharm. And then you directly come to this window and you can just create a new project here. So you can see here you can choose the location of your project. So by default, it's going to be in your home directory for your user. And then it's going to create a Pycharm projects folder and then create Python. Well, you can just change the name if you want, okay? Let's say my first project. You can keep those settings here and click on create. Okay, so you have some tips. I'm going to skip that. And it's going to install Python modules. Okay, it's going to take care of everything for you. So you can directly start writing code with Python. Okay, let's do this. And you are now in the Pycharm IDE, okay, with a first program, okay, that you have here, like a hello world program, okay, in a new file here that is called main.py. So we're going to see that just a bit later. For now, what I'm going to do, I'm going just to configure the Pycharm with you, okay, to show you the different settings I'm going to use so you can continue to follow this course. And whether you are on Windows, Linux, or macOS, from now, this should be the exact same thing, okay? The options will be the same, the code will be the same, everything will be the same. So you can first go on File, and then Settings, okay, and on Appearance and Behavior Appearance here, you can choose the theme for the IDE. So by default, I don't know, maybe you will have the light one, okay, which is, well, very white. And what I recommend is to use this one, dark color, okay, which is easier for the eyes and is quite nice, okay. So choose a dark thing if possible, so your eyes won't hurt that much after a few hours on the screen. And then you can go here on the left on Editor, on General, and click on that checkbox here. Change font size with Control mouse wheel, okay? Just click on that and click on Apply. So you will be able to scroll in the text editor, okay, to make it bigger or smaller as you want. And then you can click on OK. So you have the main here, the main editor, okay? You can zoom in with Control mouse and maybe Command mouse on macOS. So you can zoom in, zoom out, okay, to make the text bigger. All right, and now your Pycharm IDE is installed and set up, and you can start to write and execute your own Python program. And we are going to see that in the next lesson.